Hi guys, welcome to this video looking at what a catalyst is. There are two parts to the definition of a catalyst, so if we start off, it's nice and simply, it's something that is used to speed up the rate of reaction. In the two boiling tubes I've got here, I have hydrogen peroxide, and I'm going to add a catalyst into them. One of them is copper oxide, one is manganese oxide. As you can see, the reaction looks very different. Now what's important to note is that the reaction occurring is exactly the same. When you have hydrogen peroxide, it naturally breaks down into water and oxygen. So what's happening here is the copper oxide is a catalyst. It's speeding up the reaction a little bit, but the manganese oxide is a much better catalyst for this reaction, and as you can see, it's producing oxygen at a much faster rate, much quicker. So we've already covered that a catalyst speeds up a chemical reaction, but as I said, there are two parts to it. And the second part is about what happens to that catalyst afterwards. Now, if I were to measure out 5 grams of my manganese oxide, which is the reaction you can see going on here, if I were to take that manganese oxide and at the end of the reaction, once everything's finished, dry it out, it would be exactly the same mass. It does not get used up. The chemical stays exactly the same, so there's no change to the chemical and there's no change to the mass of my manganese oxide. So my definition is, it speeds up a chemical reaction without getting used up. Okay, let's see how much you've picked up from this video then. So the first question is to describe what a catalyst is. So it's worth 2 marks. Nice and simply, you need 2 things. So what did I say were the 2 parts that make up our definition of a catalyst? Part 2, the think it, the application of knowledge, is you have hydrogen peroxide, H2O2, and it naturally decomposes, breaks down into water and oxygen. The table below shows the same reaction, but with different catalysts. So you've got 3 catalysts, A, B, and C. I've got my mass used, which is 5 grams all the way throughout, and then you have your volume produced in 30 seconds. So you've got 4 parts to this question. One of them, write a word equation. Now remember, it tells you all the information you need up in the actual question. So you're starting off with hydrogen peroxide. What 2 things are you ending up with? Turn that into a word equation for me. Part 2, the symbol equation. They've given you H2O2, so you don't need to remember that. You should know what water is, you should know what oxygen is, so have a go at writing and balancing the symbol equation. Part C, explain which catalyst is the most effective in this reaction. So you'll get 1 mark for saying whether it's A, B or C, and 1 mark for saying why, using the data to help you. And then part D, explain what the mass of catalyst A would be at the end of the reaction. So it starts off at 5 kilograms. What do you reckon it's going to end up at? Think back to what we talked about during this video. So you get 1 mark for saying the mass at the end and 1 mark for saying why. Pause the video, have a go, and we'll see how you've done in a minute. Okay, let's go through the answer then. So question 1, the know it, the basic knowledge that you need to know for this question. It speeds up a reaction, or it increases the rate of reaction. That's your first marking point. And you should hopefully remember from the second point, it doesn't get used up, or it remains chemically unchanged at the end of the reaction. So either of those would have got you the 2 marks. Let's move on to question 2. Okay, on to question 2. So it's the word equation for the decomposition of hydrogen peroxide. So normally if these are worth 2 marks in the exam, you might be lucky and get 2 marks. Normally it'll only be worth 1. But if it is worth 2, you'll get 1 mark for the reactants and 1 mark for the products. So I've got hydrogen peroxide is my reactant, so you get 1 mark for that. And what does it produce? What does it decompose into? Water and oxygen. So 1 mark for hydrogen peroxide, 1 mark for, on the right of the arrow, having water and oxygen. If we move on to question 2, part B, we've been given that hydrogen peroxide is H2O2, so I can put that in there. Again, this is worth 3 marks, so you're going to get 1 mark just for putting that in, the reactants. The second mark is for having water. You should know water is H2O by now, and oxygen. Oxygen, think of the phone company, think that it's diatomic, goes around in pairs, therefore it's going to be O2. So your second mark is for having H2O plus O2. Now the next thing you've got to do is you've got to balance it. So what you need to do here is counter what you've got on either side. So if we start off with hydrogen, I've got 2, and then oxygen, I've got 2 on the left. If we move over to the right, hydrogen, again, I've got 2. Oxygen, however, I've got 1 in my H2O, and I've got 2 from my O2, which means I've got 3 in total, which is unbalanced, my oxygen. So your next job is to choose the unbalanced, the odd number, and double it, which in this case is my water. So if I double that, I end up with 4 H's, and I double my 1 oxygen, which gives me 4 in total, because I haven't changed my O2. I then go back over to the left-hand side. I've got 2 hydrogens and 2 oxygens. I need 4. What do? Double that. Gives me 4 hydrogens, which is balanced, and it gives me 4 oxygens, which is balanced. And that's going to get you your 3rd mark. Okay, on to part C. Explain which catalyst is the most effective in this reaction. So what you're looking at for this is the information in this column here. So what you want is the one that's going to produce the most oxygen in the shortest amount of time, which is B. So you're going to get 1 mark for saying catalyst B, and then your 2nd mark is for validating that answer because it produces the most oxygen in 30 seconds. Make sure you've put that in there, because at the end of the reaction they will produce the same amount, but it's producing it quicker. So it produces the most oxygen in 30 seconds. And you know it's in 30 seconds because it tells you that in the table. If we move on to part D, explain what the mass of the catalyst A would be at the end of the reaction. So we're starting off with 5 grams. What did we say? The mass of the catalyst stays chemically unchanged and it stays the same. So your 1st mark is for saying it would end up as 5 grams, or the mass stays the same. And then your 2nd marking point is just get that definition in there again. The catalyst itself doesn't get used up or doesn't change in the reaction. Okay, that brings this video to an end. I have got a review question for you, which says explain how you could test to find out which is the best catalyst to decompose hydrogen peroxide. So you saw 2 catalysts earlier. How would I know which one's the best? And then include a definition of a catalyst in your answer. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, click on like down below. You can have a look at my latest video, you can visit the website, and you can also subscribe if you haven't done so already. Bye now.